folks. Why Would You Ask That is a podcast that answers some of the weirdest questions. A lot of those are inappropriate for some listeners. If you're squeamish, easily disturbed, or just having a bad day, this may not be for you. But if you've got to know the answers like we do, stay tuned.
Why would you ask that? My name is M, they, them.
And I'm
And...
What? Were you just about to bypass us?
No, I was gonna say and I was gonna wait for you.
Your and was taking too long. I'm too impatient. I'm all hopped up on Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola and curry, alright? I'm Karen, she, her, and...
I'm Remy, he, they.
There! Introduction complete.
Introduction complete. Y'all may have noticed we've been going through it. Well, maybe you don't really notice recently because we just uploaded a whole bunch of shit. But we're having a little bit of growing pains.
Yes. The listeners started throwing questions at us and we're like, oh,
this is really happening. And then Remy moved.
Yeah, the listeners started giving us questions right as I was moving. So
yeah.
Yes. Remy moved. The place we recorded no longer offered free recording, so we had to move our shit around that. And then, we had a whole ass cursed episode that just would not record. Everything went wrong. And then, the episodes kept trying to be cursed, but Remy, figured that out, because he's like that.
Yeah. Worked for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah! So now we're here, and you guys may remember, we mentioned something about babies in the last episode. Babies having to do specifically with a dead whale, like they were in proximity. And I really wanted to know if the babies got to see the dead whale, but I'm not sure if the babies got to see the dead whale because maybe they were trapped in their baby cages.
Or, you say trapped, but maybe the cages helped keep them from smelling the smell.
Oh, true. I mean, the cages were literally keeping them alive.
Yeah. Absolutely, they didn't have to smell it because they had fresh oxygen in them.
Fuck yeah. Good. Good for the babies. That's a relief.
Sometimes I think I, too, would like to be in a little box with a whole bunch of good, free, clean, fresh oxygen. But then I'm away from the dead whale. So, what the fuck is up with the babies of Coney Island, and why were they a sideshow attraction?
I'm gonna tell you, I like the babies of Coney Island. I've known about them for a while now. Don't know why I hadn't already put them on the list. I guess I just needed Hot Dog Slim's question last week to remind me about Coney Island's existence.
Yeah, how could you, know about the Coney Island babies and never utter a word about this? I did not know that they had babies on Coney Island unless they, were brought there.
Do you remember how last week I said that Coney Island was like a den of just sin for a while?
Yeah, how did that happen with the babies there? Were they sinning in front of the babies?
Probably a little bit.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. What if the babies grew up and, one time when I was a baby on Coney Island.
Do you know?
People did a sin in front of me.
You're the only one that would remember that.
Do you know what? There's actually, you can actually watch plenty of interviews from the babies of Coney Island. They are, on YouTube.
What?
Because the babies of Coney Island continued up to, 1950.
Oh my god, they're still alive.
Yeah. So I'm gonna link, YouTube videos and stuff on our resource page. I literally just watched one at, 6 o'clock with my husband while I was preparing my notes.
My God.
With, 2 different ones. 2 different women who talked about their experiences being a baby on Coney Island's boardwalk and how they, would come back and visit after their time there. Like one of them said that she spent 3 months as a baby on Coney Island, and then she said every year we would come back and visit on Father's Day, the doctor.
Wait. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But wait, did she, like, elect to go and become a baby for 3 months and go there, and then when she left, she was no longer a baby?
No, she was still a baby. I'll tell you how it works.
Okay.
So, let me paint you a word picture.
I love word pictures.
So, it took a war, famine, and poultry, chickens, to develop the technological breakthrough responsible for saving thousands of premature infants.
Like chicken incubators?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So, the Franco-Prussian War in 1870 to 1871, along with a famine that was happening at the same time, had contributed to a significant population decline in France. To increase the growth rate, the French needed to start having a lot more babies as quickly as possible. This is not realistic because you can only have so many babies at a time.
Excuse me, tell that to the person who had, like, 8 babies all at once.
I wish I could remember her real name.
I'm pretty sure there's somebody who was able to beat her record. Are you Googling most babies all at once?
Yeah. No, a woman who had 8 babies in the U.S. in 2009 currently holds the Guinness World Records for the most children delivered at a single birth to survive.
Oh, they all made it?
Yeah, they all survived. Octomom's babies all survived.
Oh, I forgot that she's titled Octomom.
Yeah, I can't remember her real name.
Surely you could find it. You already got the Google open.
But after her, there was a woman who was 25 in Mali who gave birth to 9 babies.
Oh.
Yeah, she was only expecting 7, and she delivered 9. That was in 2021.
Can you imagine?
Oh, God. No, I can't.
I can barely imagine
Like,
one. I'm set to have twins, so... Ugh.
You what?
Yes.
Genetically predisposed?
Yes.
So sorry.
And just so that we can have the record, the Guinness World Record for most prolific mother ever goes to a woman who is just listed as Mrs. Vasilyeva, who had, 69. She was 69, and she's from Russia.
Oh, wait.
It says in 27
You said 69?
confinement, she is
currently.
What?
She
was.
was.
Okay.
Sorry.
She
She
was
was 69. Died in the 1700s. It says, in 27 confinements, she gave birth to 16 pairs of twins, 7 sets of triplets, and 4 sets of
How
quadruplets.
many kids is that?
Well,
No!
do the math. 16 pairs of twins.
32.
That would be 32. 7 sets of triplets, so that's 21. And 4 sets of quadruplets, so that's 16.
Too many numbers all at
That
once.
should be
Hold
illegal.
on.
Is she okay?
16,
Or was she
32,
okay?
16 and 32 to get.
And 21.
16 and 36, 7, 8, 40, 48.
Are you using a calculator or your brain?
61. My brain.
She had to have like a kid a year.
It's 69.
Yeah, okay, so she had 69 kids.
Yes.
How? How is that even...
It
Is
says...
she okay? Was she okay?
No.
Oh my god!
She died.
Well, no,
Did she
she
die in
died.
childbirth? Like, what happened? How did she not? It was...
The odds for that are so
would-
extremely high! It's already dangerous as it is to pop out one baby, let alone 69 little fuckers! What the fuck?
I mean, in the 1700s
Yeah.
even, so...
Yes! This lady was just courting death every time she popped one out! She said, "Oh, death!"
Man, she was...
I defy you!
She was almost 80 when she died, so she really was very good at having children.
She had like a whole village of babies!
She did have basically a whole village of babies, all to the same man. who had also had children with another woman. So it's and
what did he do that he can afford over 69 fucking kids?
he didn't do anything. He was a peasant.
I assume that a lot of the children just died.
I don't know. I'm reading now. It says, because this is the Guinness Book of World Records, so, they have to do their research to make sure this is true. So it says, numerous contemporary sources exist which suggest that this seemingly improbable and statistically unlikely story is true, and she is the woman with the most children. It was reported in Moscow by the monastery of Nikolsk on 27 February 1782, which had recorded every birth. And only 2 of them failed to survive.
What the fuck? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, everybody in that town is somehow related to this woman at this point.
Yeah.
She's
really.
like the fucking Attila Hunt of pussy.
And a very good mother, because only 2 of them died.
Jesus
Really.
Christ. And this is back when they were like, we're gonna throw our shit out the window years. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So there's a reporting from the time that says, in an original letter before me, dated St. Petersburg, August 13th, 1782, from Fyodor Vasiliev, age 75, a peasant, said to be now alive and in perfect health in the government of Moscow, has had, by his first wife, 69 children, by his second wife, 18 children. So, altogether, the man ended up with 87 children, and 84 of them lived.
Wow. I just
So much.
it's so much that it just doesn't sound real. Like it doesn't
Yep.
sound plausible. It sounds like heresy. Like I can't even think about yeah. That's wild.
And this man he just produces so many twins and triplets, because the second wife had 18 children, and she did it by giving birth to 6 pairs of twins and 2 sets of triplets. And he was 75 at the time.
Oh my god. That's too many babies.
So the French Academy came and did a study on him and his twins and triplets and such. Wow.
There is such a thing as too much. Like, at some point, you just should have just figured out how to pull out.
He probably did.
And kept doing it. That's a lot of... Just how do you...
It
That
says
is more babies than I would ever... I'm so upset.
It says that Guinness World Records speculates that there is significant chance that she might have had hyperovulation, or she released multiple eggs at one time, the first wife.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so.
This fascinates me. So,
I mean, like, rightly so, but, like...
yep. So that's the most.
It's too much. It's too many babies.
Yeah.
And we could have put them all in baby cages, but yet here we are.
Well, she didn't need the baby cages. All of her babies lived except for 2.
That's true.
If you want a contemporary person with the most babies, Miriam Babirya, 2016, had 44 babies, and 43 of them lived.
What the fuck?
And she had all of them by the age of 36.
Okay, that's so many babies.
She did have hyperovulation. She had 3 sets of quadruplets, 4 sets of triplets, and 6 sets of twins. And at the age of 40, she just went ahead and got everything fixed so she would have no more babies.
I would have done it at the age of, but fucking young. You tell me I could have that many babies, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's taking my voice away.
Yeah, stop screaming.
I can't stop screaming. Can you imagine pumping out that many baseballs out of your fucking... No, they're bigger than baseballs!
They are, as the only one of us, between the 3 of us, who has pushed anything out of there. And one of those without the pain medicine.
Oh my god.
They are big. It is bigger than a baseball. Yeah. I had the 2 and then said, I don't want to do this again. So I can't imagine. Yeah. And none of those ones had the benefit of being at Coney Island and getting put in these baby cages, as M keeps calling it.
Because they're cages for babies, duh.
So, now for real. If you're not one of these people, it's just really hard to repopulate an entire country. Yeah, because you just can't have babies that fast unless you happen to be one of these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, some doctors and scientists wondered if instead they could try to find a solution to the infant mortality rate instead. So that's what they started trying to do. And now let me take you to, it's Coney Island in the early 1900s. You're going to wade under the water, maybe you eat some ice cream, maybe you're going to grab one of those Nathan's Famous hot dogs. Once your food is settled, maybe you're going to head over into Luna Park, check out the sideshow performers, like the four-armed lady or the sword swallowers, and you'd eventually run into a different sort of exhibit, basically a functioning neonatal intensive care unit, complete with incubators filled with sleeping premature babies.
How did the baby sleep through it all?
Yeah, it's not an accident. Babies in incubators were a common sideshow until the late 19th and early 20th century. And this, like, I say early, and it really was, like, almost up to the 1950s that babies were still at, like, being sideshows.
Wow.
So, premature infants could be found at World's Fairs and in permanent exhibitions like the one at Luna Park. But the babies weren't there to be on display, necessarily. Like, they were on display, but they weren't there for that sole purpose. They were there to fight for their lives with the help of an intrepid little German man. I already shared his picture with the 2 of you.
Oh yeah, the one where he looks like he's using baby maracas.
Yeah. His name is Martin Couney. I mentioned him in the hot dog episode because he was complaining about how cheap the hot dogs were because it made people expect him to make his tickets to see the babies cheaper. Nathan of Nathan's Hot Dogs, if you didn't listen to that episode or don't remember, had lowered the prices to eat his hot dogs to a nickel. And
Yeah.
Dr. Cooney said in a paraphrase of his quote, "Now people want to come over here and tell me that I charge too much for them to come and see my babies, but this isn't a hot dog. These are real babies in here. I'm not going to lower my prices."
Who do you fucking expect? A fucking puppy?
I don't know. I maybe don't make babies a sideshow. It's just my opinion.
Oh, Karen.
I assumed that's how he was funding the whole thing.
Karen, I'm going to change your mind.
Oh. All right.
So.
Should we make babies sideshows again?
No.
Okay.
We should not.
You said you were going to change my mind.
I'm going to change your mind about this situation, but no, we should not make babies sideshows now. But that's because...
It reminds me of a story.
That's because now we have better technology and an understanding of science.
Yeah, that's good.
So, in that episode, in the hot dog episode, I called him Martin Coney because I didn't know how to pronounce his last name. Couney. But I looked it up since he's the focus of the story, and it's Cooney.
Cooney.
Yeah,
Cooney.
some of the boardwalk babies that were there with him told me that that's how you say his name, so I'm going to relieve them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
they would know they were there.
You'd think
they
would.
remember everything about being a baby.
They met the man. They interacted with him long after they stopped being babies.
Well, I've never met the person who knew me as a baby.
But you weren't a preemie on a sideshow.
How would you know?
Because I was there.
Oh, okay. I guess I did meet the people who were there when I was born. Fucking Karen was standing at the bedside.
Goo goo gaga, son!
Nobody questioned this.
All right. Martin Couney created and ran incubator baby exhibits on the island from 1903 to the early 1940s, and he died in relative obscurity. But he was one of the greatest champions of the life-saving technology, the incubator, and is credited with saving the lives of thousands of premature babies. I saw the number 7,000 in one of these sources.
7,000?
Round in that area, just in the United States. He worked a little bit in Germany with babies and incubators, but the 7,000-ish number only applies to what he did here in the United States.
Jesus Christ, dude. So, why...
Yeah.
Are we gonna find out why he decided to display the babies?
We are, very shortly.
Oh, okay.
So, before he started doing this work, incubators as a serious life-saving technology was laughed at and dismissed by other doctors. So, we're going to talk about that. I think in the last episode, I called Martin Couney the inventor of the incubator. And I see him listed as the inventor of the incubator in several sources, but he is not the inventor of the incubator.
Just to clear that up.
Clear that up. In case I said that, and in case you people go and read a source that says that.
Oh, you people!
Yeah, you people
What's
out there in the audience.
What's that supposed to mean? You people. A group of people.
Yes. A group of people who isn't me. Okay. So the first doctor to use incubators for preemies was a French obstetrician. His name was, I looked it up so I didn't have to rely on Karen. His name was Dr. Stéphane Tarnier. Stéphane Tarnier. So, with my just regular accent. So he witnessed an incubator warming up baby chickens at the Parisian Zoo in the late 1870s, and according to a medical historian named Dr. Jeffrey Baker, Tarnier thought he could use a similar device to save premature babies dying of hypothermia in Parisian hospitals.
Well, that logic does make sense.
Yeah. Other European obstetricians pointed out that Tarnier's first devices were hardly different than like a hot water bottle and a blanket that they were already using in maternity wards.
Oh.
And this is because he was using like a box, like just a heated box. But the historian Jeffrey Baker says, quote, such criticisms missed Tarnier's most important contribution, which was to convince his colleagues that incubators of whatever design really made a difference, quote.
Yeah. I mean, keeping it enclosed rather than just, heat against the body in one area. The enclosing of the heat, I think, really does make a difference. So, yeah. Good job, Dr. Tarnier.
I had a little paragraph somewhere about exactly... See, this is where winging it gets me in trouble. I had a little paragraph about the improvements that he made after this.
1. Make it not out of a cardboard box. 2. Maybe do not rotate the baby inside.
He's doing like a...
Like a rotisserie chicken.
Wow. No.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it was just like a wooden box. He had a lid on it, but it was basically just heated pans underneath that you just refilled over and over and over again.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
2. Not water.
Not water. But like Dr. Baker said, the point of it wasn't what it looked like. It was just in trying to shift attitudes in the relationships between babies and mothers and nurses and doctors and stuff. Because he just wanted them to know that you could just still care for the babies. Because at the time, the high mortality rate was due to this, like, attitude that this baby's 2 months early and it's tiny and it's gonna die anyway, so we don't really need to put a lot of energy into it.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
Realistic, but sad.
Yeah, it is. With the babies enclosed in the boxes that kept them warm, though, like, mothers began to feel, like, disconnected from their baby, and nurses spent, like, a lot of time tending to the incubators as opposed to the babies themselves, because they needed a lot of attention to the box itself and the constant changing of the water and the pads and things like that. So that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Major issue, it seems like.
Yeah. Caring for premature babies is really expensive. It's expensive now, and it was expensive then. There's several pieces of this that really just doesn't change. Because I read in one of my sources that said, it called it nursing the machine, about, like, the nurses taking care of the box that the baby was in just as much as they were taking care of the baby, and it feeling disconnected from the actual care of the infant. In that early stage when the machines were so just wonky, that feeling of nursing the machine, quote, persists today too sometimes. The expense it takes to take care of the premature baby was a lot back then, and it's a lot now too. And that also was part of the reason that doctors just didn't really care to put in a lot of effort towards taking care of the premature babies.
Mm-hmm. It just wasn't worth it.
No, it wasn't worth it. And so they watched the nurses, like, dealing with these machines, these boxes, that Dr. Tournier made. And doctors were like, these are stupid. The other doctors told Tournier that his invention was not scientific, not best practice, not worth investing in.
Wow. And he's like, but I like living babies.
Mm-hmm. He did. Well, so then came along another doctor named Pierre Boudin.
Boudin.
Yeah. That.
Sorry, it sounded like something that would feel nice to put my mouth in.
Around.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Boudin assisted Tournier with all of this. And he started doing a lot of research with the incubators. Like, he wrote down a lot of things about them and trying to improve them. His thought process was, why are you people not willing to invest in these things?
Yeah.
Because they hate babies.
I mean, it certainly feels that way.
They're like, no thank you. I got fatter babies to attend to.
Basically. So, for, like, several years, he researched beside Dr. Tournier and wrote all this stuff down and tried to push it at other hospitals and with other doctors and got a lot of pushback about it because they just were like, I do not have the time to deal with this. I have these babies that are definitely going to live that I would rather put my energy into. Thank you. So, Dr. Tournier eventually left. Like, he retired, and Dr. Boudin succeeded him and took over his job. And the most notable thing that he did was change the incubators so that there was more glass in their construction, so mothers could see the babies better.
Ah, no more mystery Schrodinger babies.
Exactly.
He said, voila! I reveal! I have lifted the cloche.
Yeah.
View your little demons. I'm keeping them at bay. This is my job.
Yes. He focused more on encouraging and nurturing the mother-baby bond than on the technological development of the incubators, which, both improved survival rates and decreased the number of babies who survived but were promptly abandoned.
Oh, whoa. Okay. That is pretty major.
It is. The thing that happened was the babies would survive, which was great because that wasn't happening. Babies were dying before the incubators, but now they would survive, but then their parents would get them back, and then they would just give them away at the foundling home, like the orphanage, just around the corner. And they'd be like, well, we spent like 3 months not seeing this baby, and now I don't want it anymore, the mom would say.
We're returning this back to the baby store with you.
They just had not built up any bond at all, so they gave it away, which is like a fair feeling for those moms to have. I get it. It's sad.
It's very sad. It's one I can't really understand because I keep adopting things.
So, the issue of incubator technology in people's minds replacing the need for a mother, it doesn't, but this is how people were thinking. Or at least, like, distancing her from the baby, like, leading to this, like, abandonment issue, was noted by Martin Couney. Dr. Pierre Boudon brought Martin Couney into this because he enlisted the help of his buddy, Martin Couney, to help get the word out about the incubators because Pierre was having a real issue getting people to take his incubator seriously the same way that that the other guy was. So Martin Couney, his decision was, well, we need to get a lot of eyes on these things. And where can I go to get a lot of eyes on the incubators? I'm going to take the incubators to the World Exposition in Berlin in 1896.
And they took the babies with them?
No, that's not what happened. Okay. But it's weirder. So...
What?
So at the time, fairs like the World Expedition weren't places to, like, go ride rides and eat food. At least not the only thing you could do there.
They showed off inventions, right?
Yes, so many inventions. And if you were in America, serial killers also.
Yes, we gotta talk about that one day.
Yeah, America's purported first serial killer happened at the Chicago World Fair.
Mm-hmm.
As well as things like zippers and stuff like that. Like belly dancers came to America. Belly dancers came to the United States at the Chicago's World Fair.
Zippers, belly dancers.
Serial killers.
Zippers, murder.
Yeah. Dishwashers.
Just a little bit of murder.
You can go to the White City where the World Fair was in Chicago. You can still visit that area. There's some stuff still there. And you can go to the location where his murder castle was.
I love that. That's horrible.
Anyway.
Fucking amazing.
So, yes, they weren't just for rides and food. Yeah, there was inventions and stuff. This is what they were for, initially. They were just like giant exhibitions of like amazing things. Why they don't do stuff like this anymore, I don't know. I think it's maybe because we have just dozens and dozens and dozens of conventions now that are just like highly specialized.
Yeah.
Starting in 1851 when Victorian-era Englanders staged their great exhibition, they were places for the world to gather and learn more about like new industrial age technology. The Industrial Revolution had yielded like new machines, devices, scientific discoveries. They were important places for professionals and the public to learn more about like just the great things that were going on at the time. So in 1896 in Berlin, it was no different. So Martin Couney, he had like tons of showmanship. He was filled with it.
You gotta have that shit for the Coney Island, though. You can't even get in through the door. You can't even get in through the door without being like, hey, yo, I got babies!
Yeah. So, Martin Couney, he took the assignment to show off the incubators at the Berlin expedition, like, a little too far, maybe. He took it very seriously. Because Dr. Boudon, he wanted him to take the incubators and show them off as an invention. Look at these things. Aren't they amazing? They save babies' lives. And Dr. Couney, he said, well, how are we going to show the incubators off if we don't put some babies in them? So Couney, once they got to Berlin, he went to the Berlin Charity Hospital and borrowed some premature babies.
He borrowed babies? What did he do? Just like sign in like a library card? Like, hey, I'll be right back.
Basically.
Oh my god.
He went to the hospital and he told them that he wanted to take some of their premature babies and put them on display at the World Fair in these incubators that they are trying to display as an invention that might save their lives. And the people at the hospital said, well, they're probably going to die anyway, so it's fine.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So then he hired some nurses to demonstrate the capabilities of the incubators, and then he took them to the fair.
Da, 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 da. Good god. Okay, and how did that go?
So these fairs, like the World Fair and these expeditions and things, they lasted for like long periods of time. Not like, like the county fairs and stuff that we have here. They last for like a weekend. These things lasted for really long stretches. Just to start out. So Martin Couney and the incubators were nestled between something called the Congo Village.
Sorry. That's a great band name.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I right?
What kind of music do they play?
Horny stuff.
What?
Horny stuff.
No.
Come on, it's Martin Couney and the Incubators.
Martin Couney and the Incubators. They they're just a classic folk band. I mean, they do play with like some synth in there. Like they like to experiment with the synthesizer, but for the most part, it's pretty classic folk. And they there's one of
They have a saxophone.
They have a saxophone?
That's all you need.
In a folk
Yeah, that's all you
band?
need to be a horny. Why not?
I guess you're right. But I think a banjo in a saxophone.
It can work.
I need someone to show me saxophone in a folk band because I can't think of one right now. Hold on.
Yes, so Martin Couney and his incubators were on exhibit between something called the Congo Village, which is probably just as awful as it sounds.
Yeah, that sounds like something racist.
I'm certain it was. It was the mid 1800s, and a bunch of yodelers, and so him and the babies were just right there next to some yodelers.
Oh my god.
Yeah. His little area was called Couney's Kinderbrutstanstalt, which translates to child hatchery.
Child hatchery. Oh, that's kind of really cute.
Yeah. It was wildly successful.
Oh? Because people like looking at the babies, right?
Hatching.
People loved looking at the babies. And he took 6 babies from the hospital. He didn't take them. He borrowed 6 babies from the hospital.
He got the babies on loan.
On loan, with permission from the hospital. And all of them survived.
Good for them.
Yeah, so these babies, the doctors gave these babies to him because they specifically said, these ones will probably not survive, so you can have these.
These fuckers are probably gonna die.
And all of those babies lived.
Damn, bro.
Yeah. So
we love that.
Couney was like, here's your babies back at the end of it.
And they're like, no, you keep them.
And so from there, he went to the United States so that he could just do this over here at a larger exhibition, and he set up here on Coney Island. Yeah. Ultimately, he just settled in the Luna Park area of Coney Island. It was one of the, like, the biggest, like, heart of Coney Island. And connected with parents eager to save the lives of their premature babies. And also with people willing to pay 25 cents to see the babies. And I already pre-looked it up for once, and that's about $10 in today's money.
$10, see a baby.
See a lot of babies. You could see all the babies.
See how many babies did he usually keep around?
I don't remember seeing a figure anywhere for how many babies.
Oh.
It might have been in this link. This link had a lot of information. This one does not tell me either. I don't know. Plenty of them, though. Enough that people were willing to pay $10 to go in and look at them.
Dang.
I mean, I pay a lot of money to go and look at random shit all the time, so it's fair. I mean, I wouldn't go looking at babies because I'm not particularly into babies. They're just not part of my obsessions. You know how it is.
Yeah. So, at the time, Coney Island was, well, right before Nathan's got around.
You're good.
Awful. We talked about it on the Nathan's episode. Like, gangsters like to go there. There was lots of gambling. Lots of just really racy things happening.
Mm-hmm.
There was that one section where people would, like, blow your skirt up if you were wearing one. Just crazy stuff going on at Coney Island.
Where the clowns would spank you and you'd be like, thanks.
Yeah, crazy stuff happened at Coney Island. After Nathan's hot dogs got there, things were dying down right around that time. So by the time that Martin Couney got there with the babies, things were sort of settled.
And they're like, all right, we won't electrocute your ass anymore, but we'll still flip your skirt.
Compromises. So the beach and boardwalk had become a gathering place of just people out to enjoy a day, and it was like tens of thousands of people would come there on the weekends. Like, during the summer, you would get that large of a crowd. I would never go to Coney Island because I can't handle that many people. So there was just this, like, huge thriving culture of vendors and amusement providers and sideshows that just sprang up all over the place. So Martin Couney's first baby exhibit on Coney Island was at Luna Park. That was the one where Nathan's Hot Dogs was too, and it was just like, that's like the middle part. He opened a second one later over in the Dreamland part.
Oh, he franchised?
Yes, he franchised. The Dreamland part of Coney Island, I believe, is the one where the people were getting their asses electrocuted.
I can't get over that, man. I just can't.
Yeah. So, the visitors would pay their 25 cents to enter, and then they would get to look at just like the rows of incubators along the wall and look through the little glass windows at the teeny tiny little preemie babies.
Teeny babies.
Like, whoa, babies are so small. Yeah.
So, yes. Many of the infants in his exhibit came to him from local maternity wards that couldn't care for them.
So like, oh, well, last-ditch effort, put them on Coney.
His own daughter, even, like Martin Couney's own daughter, was born prematurely, and she was one of his exhibits.
Oh.
He put her in an incubator and let people look at her. So, and it wasn't actually a last-ditch situation. I listened to some interviews and I read some interviews by the Boardwalk babies, and very frequently doctors would suggest initially, right off the start, once he got a name for himself, Dr. Couney, that they should go to him instead of staying in the hospital.
Well, I mean, good for him.
Like, in the YouTube video that I'm going to link that did an interview with two of these women, the first one said that when she was like 9 or something, she went she went to the hospital where she had been born to do a checkup. And it was like the first time she'd been back since she was born. And she had been on Coney Island for like 3 months or something as a baby until she weighed enough and was healthy enough to leave. And when she went to do a checkup at like 9, the doctor said that she had like perfect vision and that was unexpected. because the preemie babies that came out of the hospital all had really poor vision.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out that the hospital's incubators had too much oxygen and it was causing vision problems in their preemie babies. But Dr. Martin Cooney's incubators did not have that problem. They were good. So she had perfect vision. Her vision was fine.
So he was just really good.
Yeah, she said, her quote was, "So Dr. Cooney saved my life and also my vision," was what she said.
Aww.
Yeah, so there were lots of instances where it wasn't a last-ditch effort. It was the first thought was that the doctors would tell parents after the birth, you need to take her or him, you need to take the baby to Coney Island to Dr. Cooney.
And it worked.
And it worked. Yeah, so Martin Cooney never charged parents for the care that he provided.
I assume all the money for it came from people who were coming to Rubberneck.
Yeah, it's true. He took all of the money that he made through ticket sales and put it back into taking care of the babies and upkeep on the incubators. So, never charged parents for care, which included rotating shifts of doctors, the best nurses he could hire to look after the babies. According to the historian Jeffrey Baker, Cooney's exhibits, quote, offered a standard of technological care not matched in any hospital of the time, quote.
Damn, bro.
So, a lot of these preemie babies lived there with Dr. Cooney on Coney Island, often for, 2, 3, or 4 months at a time, getting free medical care.
Yeah, you'd have to kill somebody for that these days.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, there was plenty of times I saw in these interviews where the parents were told, your baby will need to stay with us for the next 3 months. And they said, I cannot afford that. And they were told, take your baby to Coney Island to Dr. Cooney, and he will take care of this baby. And then the baby lived, and otherwise would not have if it hadn't been for Dr. Cooney.
That's pretty amazing.
So, 7,000 babies are alive with free medical care that otherwise wouldn't have been because hospitals of the time just were too stubborn to accept the fact that they needed incubators.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Without them being part of the exhibits, he wouldn't have been able to pay for those medical costs and not charge the parents. Which is why I said I was going to change your mind about them being exhibits.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
The babies paid their own rent.
They did. The babies did not care. Nobody touched the babies. Nobody got close to the babies that weren't nurses or doctors. All the people stood far back and looked at them through the glass. I was telling, I think, Cody, basically it'd be no different. It's no different than when we go to, labor and delivery. If your friend is having a baby and you stop and you watched the babies in the nursery.
Yeah.
Except you paid money to do it. And then it was like...
Listen, if you're in a hospital, you're already paying to do it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, if you're going to...
it's the admission fee.
Most hospitals and most major cities, you pay to park. You've bought yourself a drink because you're going to be there for a while waiting on that baby to be born. You probably bought something from the cafeteria. Yeah, you have probably paid more than the $10 admission fee that Dr. Cooney was charging.
Yeah.
So, it's really not just hugely different, except for the environment. So now that I feel like I have changed your mind about the circumstances,
Yeah, 100%.
I have more to say. I'm just glad I changed your mind. So in an interview with NPR that I'm going to link, a former Boardwalk baby from one of Cooney's exhibits described her own situation when she went. She says, her name is Lucille Horn, and at the time of her interview, she was 95.
Oh my god.
Yeah. She said, quote, "My father said I was so tiny he could hold me in his hand." She was born in 1920, and she weighed under 2 pounds when she was born.
Wow.
The doctor who delivered her said that she had 0 chance of living.
These really are like baseball-sized babies.
Yeah, these ones are. So, she said, quote, "I couldn't live on my own. I was too weak to survive. You just died because you didn't belong in the world." Quote, but her father, who had seen one of Cooney's exhibits on his honeymoon, took Lucille and took her out of the hospital. Quote, "I'm taking her to the incubator in Coney Island. The doctor said there's not a chance in hell that she'll live, but he said, quote, but she is alive now," and he hailed a cab and took me to Dr. Cooney's exhibit, and that's where I stayed for about 6 months. Quote.
That is quite a fucking quote.
Wow.
Yeah. So she lived there for 6 months, and obviously continued to live because at 95 years old, she gave an interview with NPR about how obviously she survived her 0% survival chance.
That's a success story if I ever heard one.
Fuck yeah.
Other parents took convincing.
Yeah.
Beth Allen, her parents took some convincing. She was born in a hospital in Brooklyn and weighed 1 pound, 10 ounces.
Yeah, I don't think I would need much convincing at that.
Yeah. She says, quote, "My parents knew about the incubator baby sideshow in Coney Island and were reluctant to send me there. Dr. Cooney came to the hospital and spoke to my mother, and she agreed to put me under his care." Quote, "She spent 3 months on exhibit at Luna Park. She weighed 5 pounds when she left."
That's pretty good. That's regular baby weight.
Yeah, that's right there, sort of low side of the regular. Cooney would tell you that it was like a higher purpose that he had for the exhibit, and it was to show how a marvelous new technology could save fragile children, and in so doing to push a reluctant medical establishment to embrace the technology, because, despite 7,000 saved babies, it took so long for other doctors would send babies to him, but they just would not bring the technology to themselves.
But
Doctors are just so stubborn, is really it.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And I work with doctors, yes. It's just, doctors are just so stubborn.
So, check yourself, doctors. If you got a degree, you never stop learning anyway.
So, one of the articles that I was reading asked the question, was Martin Cooney an evangelist or a showman? Was he, trying to change lives, or was he just putting on a show? Was he trying to make money?
I think he was doing a good thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Agree. I mean, obviously, it's a good thing that he was doing. I mean, it wasn't obvious in the beginning, but now it's like, oh, well, yeah, that definitely 100% obvious that's a good thing that he was doing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I guess maybe when you were there at the time and you don't have the ending statistic, it could seem like he was just putting on a show. But, from here, hindsight and all, I can't see anybody looking at this and thinking he was just trying to make money, because most all of his money went back towards care of his babies. Medical historian Jeffrey Baker, who we keep quoting, says, quote, "The essential question about Cooney, I suspect he had a bit of both in him," quote. For example, Cooney would dress his preemies sometimes in just really overly large baby clothes, just to emphasize how tiny they were. Because you have to keep the crowds coming back, you know?
I put this baby in a shoe. I put this baby in your shoe. I put this baby on a hat. I put this baby on a plate. Don't let me run with this joke. It's dead. It's dead in the water. I didn't even hear it chuckle.
So, for his part, Cooney bristled at the idea that just because his work was on Coney Island, it wasn't in the interest of children's health. Quote from Martin Cooney himself, "All my life I have been making propaganda for the proper care of preemies who in other times were allowed to die." Quote, he told the New Yorker's A.J. Liebling in 1939. And he did call it that, propaganda for preemies.
Propaganda for preemies.
Accurate.
Yeah. It wasn't until after his death that incubators became common in hospital maternity wards. He died in 1950, but the families acknowledged the impact that he had on their lives anyway. So, like Beth Allen, who we just heard from a minute ago, she said, "Although I have just a vague memory of his house, my parents and I visited Dr. Cooney every Father's Day for several years." Quote.
That is so adorable.
Yeah, it is really adorable. So, Cooney had always seen his work as scientific and educational, and he just hated being, like, confined to the populist attraction areas of the Midway. Over the years, his main aim changed from just being about saving lives, because you can only do that on very limited scale for where he was and what he was doing. So, yeah, propaganda for preemies was what he called it. Yeah. The need to both educate and entertain was something that he was trying to do. So that's what that meant to him, being like a showman and a publicist at the same time. It seems like contradictory sometimes what he was doing. He would ensure that the barkers, yelling at people to come over and look at the babies, would have a script that highlighted the incubator's scientific merit, and he would fire any of them that deviated from the script.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But also, he would have his nurses wear these, like, really oversized rings so that they could take them off and put them over the baby's arms to show how tiny they were.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And Cooney didn't like being where he was on the Midway because, like, he's got an educational exhibit and he's saving lives inside of it, and he wants people to learn all this stuff because he really wants the scientific and medical community to take him seriously. But also, like, right next door to him, they opened a burlesque show.
Oh my god.
And it wasn't like a regular burlesque show. Sources called it racy.
Oh.
And it was racy enough that it got a citation.
Oh my god.
Police had to raid it and like mark and like gave it a citation for indecency.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So somebody sinned in front of the babies because you had a whole racy burlesque show going on right there next to the babies. And the manager came to complain that the burlesque workers were wearing more clothes than the babies. So they shouldn't get written up.
Oh my god.
Wow.
That is so bad.
Yeah, because it's totally the same.
Oh my god.
And less funny, over in Dreamland where his franchise babies were, those babies in their little area were next door to an exhibit called Hell's Gate.
Hell's Gate?
Yes.
That doesn't seem safe.
It's not. It caught fire.
How many times?
Well, I don't know how many times, but it caught fire after the babies were over there.
Oh, God.
Oh.
It gutted the entire park.
Oh, no.
Now,
I don't like that.
all of the babies made it.
Oh. Okay, that's good. Okay. That was going to be one of my questions, and I was very, very worried.
Yeah. Don't worry. I wouldn't have even mentioned it if any of the babies didn't make it. Yeah, all the babies made it, and they got moved over to the main Luna Park exhibit. But the disaster did give Cooney's critics the chance to say that his shows shouldn't be there, and to alienate the incubator from the serious medical practices more than they already were. And just terribly, because the fire happened in 1911, so just terribly, the eugenics movement got really big right around that time also.
Oh.
And so because the eugenics movement got really stupidly popular right around then, these babies were looked at as genetically weak and just, like, not worth keeping around. So the medical and scientific communities of the time were just like, no, I don't think we want the incubators right now. We're into eugenics at the moment.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so for a little while, they were very against Cooney's incubators. And Cooney didn't only take one race of baby either. He took babies from all socioeconomic classes and skin tones and religions and whatever.
Because he's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he's good. And he also didn't want the hospitals to buy the incubators. He offered to just give them to the hospitals.
Good God.
He was just trying to donate the incubators.
The guy was trying to save so many babies.
Yeah. So it took like 30 years then for medical opinion to slowly move along because the eugenics movement just died out, you know. It came and went.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Cooney got an assistant and a guy named Dr. Julius Hess, and he invented portable incubators for transporting babies around. And he established the first premature infant nursery at Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Hess worked with Cooney at his incubator show during the 1933 Chicago World Fair. So Cooney was at the World Fair. So, in 1937, the New York Medical Association presented Cooney with a platinum watch in recognition of his service to the medical community, many of whom had sent him babies to look after, like we said, or had sought his advice over the decades that he had been present at Coney Island. And then, in 1943, was the greatest achievement that Dr. Cooney had, because he finally closed his Coney Island show because New York's Cornell Hospital opened its own premature infant nursery.
Fuck yeah.
And had
Yay.
incubators in it.
That's a good reason to close.
Yes. So Cooney said he had completed his mission and had, quote, made enough propaganda for the preemies, quote.
Oh.
Yes. Now, I wanted to talk about, really quickly, something new that we learned about Martin Cooney. Like, recent times. We learned recently, like, in the past several years about him. He was not a doctor.
What?
What?
I wanted to keep that till the very end because I didn't want it to color anything that you thought about everything that he did.
I mean...
Man was not a doctor.
How did he get...
So he was masquerading by saying he was Dr. Cooney?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, Cooney was not even his name.
Huh?
What?
Now, don't blame him for this, though. Martin Cooney was born last name Cohen, which is a Jewish last name.
Ah, yes.
Oh.
And he was born in... He's from Germany, so he's over here in the U.S. He became Cooney. I don't blame him for changing it with the way that Jewish people have statistically and historically been treated literally everywhere they've ever been, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, throughout his career, Martin said he had studied medicine at Leipzig and Berlin. However, he did not.
Oh.
There's no record of him having studied medicine at a university in either Leipzig or Berlin. To become a physician in Germany, you are required to write a thesis. The U.S. National Library of Medicine has copies of German records, and the librarians there can't find a thesis for him. So I found this information initially from a Smithsonian Magazine article where somebody was trying to do work writing about this guy, where Claire Prentice was trying to research him they were like writing a book about him. And I was like, really? And then I dug further into this, and like various other sources confirmed that no, they could not find any indication that he was actually a doctor. There's a lot of sources that don't mention this fact at all, like PBS, NPR, like big places don't even mention it. But like Smithsonian, this lady who was writing a book about him mentions it because she was doing the research. And then like a bunch of other places also like offhandedly mentioned that it is very likely that he was never a medical doctor at all. And that nobody has been able to verify that he ever was a medical doctor. That nobody has found the records that he was ever a medical doctor or had ever studied medicine.
Wow.
Fucking bananas, bro.
Yeah. So, Claire Prentice, the rest of what she had to say about this based on the research that she did, because she's the source where all the research was done initially. From my reading, she did a lot of research. And then the other places just gave some, like, just mentioned it. And then, like, I think on Wikipedia it also says that he never studied medicine. But I'm just going to use this author's, researcher's words about it. So, she talks about in her write-up in Smithsonian Magazine about how she couldn't find any evidence he ever studied medicine. He was only 19 when he came to the U.S. with the babies in the first place.
Oh my god.
And so at that age, he would not have even been able to have studied medicine sufficiently to become a doctor.
Wow.
Because his story was that he was in Paris doing graduate work with Pierre Boudin.
Uh-huh.
Which was how he had that connection, was the story that Martin Couney had. But that at 19, he wouldn't have been old enough to be doing that.
Fucking amazing.
So in 1910, on a 1910 U.S. Census, Martin Couney lists his career as surgical instruments.
Oh.
He never claimed to have invented the incubator. Martin Couney claimed to be the inventor of the incubator over here in the U.S., but he never filed any patents or anything, because he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And by 1930, he was calling himself a physician on census records.
Just 'cause.
I mean, he was functioning in that capacity.
Amazing.
And his attraction with the babies was so wildly successful that it was drawing so much attention from, like, the U.S.'s leading pediatricians. Up into the 1930s, few U.S. hospitals had the incubators, like I said, so they were sending babies to him. And he took them in regardless of where they came from. Very progressive man. Like, he just did amazing work. I have to assume that these other doctors were unaware that he was not, in fact, a doctor also.
Yeah, presumably. Like...
Because they were sending babies to him, and as I told you in my conclusion to his story, asking his advice about matters to do with preemie babies.
The fortune that this guy has is immense. It's just in not being found out.
It's because he was so successful. If he had failed, somebody would have started digging.
That's true.
He just happened to have had such success, and so many of his babies lived.
That nobody just asked questions.
Everybody was like, this guy's got so many babies surviving, more babies than hospitals do. So, he was more successful than the qualified doctors were.
That is so funny.
Yeah. Claire Prentice writes that the distinguished Yale professor, pediatrician, and child development psychologist Arnold Gesell visited Couney multiple times in 1939 and, recorded him and in his little facility. And when he wrote his book, The Embryology of Behavior, The Beginnings of the Human Mind, he never talked about Couney in there, even though he did a significant amount of research using Couney and the sideshow babies. So maybe he found out. But by contrast, in 1922, Julius Hess, who was working with Couney, he wrote the first textbook on premature birth published in the United States, called Premature and Congenitally Diseased Infants, and he wrote, quote, "I desire to acknowledge my indebtedness to Dr. Martin Couney," quote.
Good Lord.
Wow.
The very first book ever written in the United States about premature and congenitally diseased infants
Wow.
is indebted to Martin Couney, not a doctor.
Doctors just be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is embarrassing. Or maybe not. I don't know.
Claire Prentice also wanted to point out, because this was, I guess, probably funny to her because it's a little funny to me. She wrote, all of Couney's professional associations, of all of them, his friendship with Morris Fishbein, who was the president of the American Medical Association for 25 years, is the most intriguing because he led a crusade against quack doctors. And that the two men were so close that Morris Fishbein sent his aspiring medic son Justin to talk about his career with Couney.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so Martin Couney took in over 50 years. He had a 50-year-long career, and he took in somewhere, Claire Prentice says, 7,000 to 8,000 babies. And Martin Couney says of that 7,000 to 8,000 babies, 6,500 of them were saved.
Yeah.
So that's a significant amount.
It is.
And especially because the actual qualified medical professionals of the hospitals said that every single one of them wouldn't have lived.
And he did it.
Mm-hmm. He knew he was not a doctor. He hired other doctors to work with him. He hired very skilled nurses to take care of the babies. He made sure that he had people who were working with him to help.
Oh. Oh, man.
And so nowadays, Dr. Lawrence Gartner, who's a pediatrician and also a professor at the University of Chicago, he says that Martin Couney should still be regarded as an important figure in American medicine. And he says, quote, "I wouldn't dismiss Martin Couney at all. Martin Couney was well respected by the medical community at the time. His operation was highly respected and well known to physicians."
Yeah. Give him an honorary MD.
Yeah, you might as well. 50 years and he saved all those babies. Might as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna call him Dr. Couney. I don't fucking care. He's Dr. Couney, alright?
Honorary doctor. Doctor.
So, let's see. Claire Prentice, just to end, Claire Prentice says, because her words are good, she's a writer. Claire Prentice says, to his former graduates, Couney is a hero to whom they owe their lives. They talk of him as the only man who believed they were worth saving, and crucially, who was prepared to care for them without charge. Kathy Meyer was born at 8 weeks premature in 1939. She was taken to Cornell University's New York Hospital, which had just opened a training and research center for premature infants, the first facility of its kind on the eastern seaboard. When Meyer's parents were told she'd need to stay in the hospital for several months and realized they couldn't afford to pay the bills, her pediatrician suggested they send her to Martin Couney at the New York World's Fair, and Couney sent his incubator ambulance straight to the hospital to collect her.
He had a little ambulance?
And Meyer says, I was a sickly baby. If it wasn't for Cooney, I wouldn't be here today, and neither would my 4 children and 5 grandchildren. We have so much to thank him for. And so do 7,000 to 8,000 other babies, so.
And all of their babies, if they had them.
And all of their babies and grandbabies and every other family member that branches out from all of those babies that honorary Dr. Martin Cooney and Coney Island, like, they owe everything to him, so they owe their lives to him and being a sideshow on Coney Island.
Hell yeah. Go Dr. Cooney.
That's what I got.
Amazing. Well, thanks everybody for listening. As always, we do apologize for the recent technical issues we've had, but going forward, we should be ready to rock and roll. Now, as usual, you guys can always submit questions to us through our website, whywouldyouskthat.com. And you go into the contact form and you just fill it out and it'll send that question right to us. Or you cut out the middleman, you go all the way to your email and email us at whywouldyouskthatpod@gmail.com. Again, that is whywouldyouskthatpod@gmail.com. Send us a question there. And, thank you guys for sticking with us and listening and enjoying us. We love each and every single one of you. And we would also really love if you could just interact somehow with the podcast, wherever you're listening. Give it a thumbs up, hit a subscribe button, or stars. I don't actually really know what they do everywhere. But I do know that we're also on YouTube now. So you can do whatever you do on YouTube as well. Thanks everybody for listening. Have a good one. Hey!
Bye.